Welcome back to How Soccer Explains Leadership. Thanks again for being a part of the conversation. I'm Phil Dark, your host, and with me, my brother, my co-host, Paul Jobson. Paul, how you doing, bro?
Good, Phil. Doing great. We were just talking about the weather, so we'll lead with that, right? I mean, we survived the winter ice storm in Waco, Texas, and back into our normal warmer weather years. But no, things are good, man. We're in the throes of it. The spring season is ramping back up. Our teams here have just got all their schedule, so we're in our household at least is trying to figure out how we're going to get our three kids to three different places in Dallas, Texas on a Saturday or Sunday, whatever it may be on the weekend. But it's all great, man. We were just saying last night how the winter was great. It was a good break, but we're really excited to get back on the field and get the kids playing again. So no, man, things are really good. How about you guys? You guys surviving out there?
We are. We have our last couple league games for high school, and it has been the strangest high school season I think I've ever had. We've had the last four games have been 1-0 losses.
Mm.
And all of them we could have tied, could have won. It was just like it's one of those years. And so, but this team is like the most like cheery, fun. The practices are laughing the whole time, goofing around, like having a good time. And then they get on the field and they give it at their all. And after the game, they're bummed, but hey, let's go out there the next time. And it's just, it's what you want to see. So it's been hard, but good. And it's also hard, obviously, because Kirsten, with her knee surgery,
Yeah.
they're not able to play, and we can't score, and that's what she does. And so it makes it even harder, especially her senior year. But is what it is. She's been able to lead from the sideline, and I think she's made cookies 4 or 5 times for the team and doing her thing. So that's been fun to watch her lead, and even though I know it's really hard for her, but so yeah, so it's good. We're doing well. A million things. We could spend 4.5 hours just talking about my family. We're not going to do that, folks. Don't worry about it. You don't need to have that. One show we'll just do home videos, and we'll put that on YouTube for you. And if you really want to know, you can watch them. But that's for another day. But today we got a lot more fun than dark home videos. We got Jim Spence with us. Jim is a longtime friend, a longtime listener. I think probably one of the first people to reach out to me and out there in Houston, and we've given us a couple guests, and just a lot of great conversation. So we're finally getting you on, Jim. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Phil, and Paul. It's great to be on. And yeah, I remember back in the day we talked, and you were just starting the podcast up, I think it was, and frantically searching for stellar guests that you might have on the show. And so I tried to give you some, and some you went with, and I think most you didn't, but some that I presented to you, they were really excellent additions to the podcast. So I'm just grateful to be on, Phil, and it's good to be able to eventually, I guess, during this time, share a little bit about Sports Quest and what's coming up with our 30-year anniversary, which is super special to us. We've never had any kind of celebration whatsoever at Sports Quest. We just trusted the Lord to do what He does, and we follow Him. And but we felt like 30 years is kind of a big deal. We missed the 25 with COVID, so 30 years is coming up, and we're excited about that. But everything's good in Houston. It was, well, as I said earlier, winter came and went last week. We had a couple of days where the kids were off the field and kind of broke my heart, disappointed. As an Englishman, you want to be on the field, practicing and playing in the cold weather and making good memories and all that fun stuff. But I was overruled, and we got to stay home and put the fire on and watch English Premier League and watch Manchester United finally come back and be the team that we wanted to be after 10 years. So yeah, it's all going good.
Absolutely. I told my son after the win against Fulham in Fergie time
Mm.
that's how it was all the time before. Well, back we just knew we were going to win back in the
Mm.
day, and I just that my 14-year-old hasn't seen that team, and so it
Yeah.
was fun to see that, even a glimpse, I'm hoping
Yeah.
it continues, but yeah, doing pretty well right now, so that's a lot of fun. Just for the record, if the guests you suggested are not on the episode list, it's probably on their side that they
Yeah.
didn't, they're like, you're not big time enough. Come back to us when you get a better when you get a better host, you get off of it, and just Paul and somebody else are hosting, then we'll come on. But that's okay. That's okay. Well, maybe someday we'll be big time enough for the guests that you put our way. Now, in all seriousness, though, like, we have had some great guests that you get us. Burns was one of them. That was fun. Really good conversation. But anyway, folks, go back and listen to that episode. By the way, it's really good. You get another cool little British accent. These guys come on, they sound smarter than Paul and me, and that's good. That's good.
Well,
So
one, because they are, but
yeah, well,
that's
Really not.
that's
Look,
irrelevant.
that's
but-
true.
at all.
That's
No, we're
true.
not.
But Jim, that what we love to just get your story, and you gave a little glimpse into that with you are an Englishman. That's probably not surprising anybody out there right now. But can you just share kind of how you developed your passion for soccer, for football in your case, ministry, leadership, and you talked a little bit about Sports Quest, and we'll get more into that later. But just your faith journey and intertwined with all that. So
Absolutely, Phil. I guess like a lot, like my buddy Rob Burns that was on, we didn't grow up, and I certainly didn't grow up in a Christian home by any means. Good family, lovely family, 2 sisters, brother, mom and dad that loved us, unconditionally, but had no concept whatsoever of Jesus, no concept of church, no concept of faith, no concept of, so my whole weekends were consumed with sports. So as a kid growing up in England, everybody wanted to be a professional footballer in the winter. That's what your mission statement was when asked. It's like, I'm going to play professional football in the winter, and then I'll play professional cricket in the summer. That's what you dreamed about, and that was always my ambition. So I grew up playing the sport, enjoyed the sport, played at sports, football and cricket especially. Played at decent levels. Never, didn't make the grade. Wasn't good enough to do that, but always loved just playing and watching, and everything changed really, Phil. I guess going back to my story, everything changed when I became a Christian. And so, long story. I'll cut a long story short. I was on vacation from England in 1991. Gave my life to Christ, October 20th, 1991. Went back to England. Told my family, who thought I was crazy because it was, I sat them down and told them I'd become a Christian. I got baptized that same time before I came back to England. Thought it was a phase I was going through, and then 6 months later, I came over to work with Rob Burns and his ministry. Never ever thought that I'd be here for 30 years. I mean, I think most people that you get on that were in a ministry for a long time say I would never invent this. I would never have necessarily wanted this. But when I became a believer, it was really quite obvious to me straight away that I just had this deep sense of gratitude for what Christ had done for me, that I had a compulsion, I was compelled to share him through whatever platform would allow. My goal would have been to have a cricket ministry. I love cricket. I would love it to be called Cricket Quest, but it's not. It's Sports Quest, and it's not even Soccer Quest. But I worked with Rob for 4 years, watching him lead, learning from his leadership. Great leader, great speaker, very much a front person. I was always the kind of the background guy. And then after 4 years of working with him, he got called to seminary in '96. So in '96, we as a church body, we were going through the whole Henry Blackaby Experiencing God study. And that's when Rob felt called to go to seminary. And so Debbie and myself, we then had a decision to make. When Rob left, do we now go back to England? Is our time up in the United States and we go back to England, or do we start something afresh? We weren't going to continue the ministry that Robert had. That dissolved. So we had a decision to make, and it was right about that time where we were asking the questions about, we were getting godly counsel, we were praying, we were seeing what did the circumstances line up with what our hearts were telling us to do. But ultimately, it came down to them all lining up with the scripture. And I never forget reading the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000 with the loaves and the fishes. And when I read the pages as a relatively new believer back then, when I read the pages, when I read the scripture, don't send them away. You give them something to eat. You give them something to eat. Don't send the crowds away. You still have enough to feed the people with soccer and with ministry. And so it really touched my heart to think that God could use somebody that's always been in the background in terms of the limelight. It's like, man, I have nothing to offer. But if you're asking me to do soccer ministry, not cricket ministry, if you're telling me to stay in the US and not go back to England, then Lord, I just want to be obedient to the call. And that's when we started Sports Quest in '96 out of a friend's house at church. And then, 30 years later, we're still doing it. And there's been some ups and downs, some high points and low times, but I've never doubted the fact that this was God's call on my life to do soccer ministry in various formats over the years, and it has changed over the years. So that's a little bit. My story really did change. Really got involved in the art of coaching and coaching. Period. After I became a Christian, I never wanted to be a coach. Never wanted to stand in front of people and be that person that's giving orders or instructions. But God had different plans. I wanted to work in a bank and wear a suit as an Englishman with a pocket watch, and carry a briefcase to work. And God says, no, you're going to wear a suit, but it's going to be a tracksuit. And so that's what's been the case last 30 years. And it's been quite a journey.
And that's why I love talking to people about personality styles and different personality styles. Jim and I know each other well enough to know we are different personality styles. That was never my dream to wear a suit and work in a bank. I will say that for sure. For sure. I did wear a suit a lot and work in a law firm. And then I was like, I'd rather wear a tracksuit and, and be out coaching. But, anyway, Paul, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, same. I mean, I studied accounting. I never thought I'd be a professional coach, but God has plans, and our job is to listen, right, and continuously listen. And to this day, right, you never know what God has next for you, but just having those open ears and open heart to do that. I love that. I love that story because it just, I think, can resonate with so many people. What is God's calling for me? A lot of people ask that question, and I think a lot of people just aren't willing to, really listen to that, open their heart to that. But and Jim, through all of that, obviously, as God has kind of shaped you into the man He wants you to be, as we're all trying to get to that point. How would you explain your why, like your life purpose in all that you're doing and how you're living that out?
Well, it's funny because I was just in anticipation of that. I've listened to you guys long enough to know that question was coming.
You knew it was coming. Yeah, it was coming.
I knew it. It's like, I know at some point it's going to come. And I read a quote. I'm a great one for writing down quotes. And I read somewhere, and I might have even heard it from you guys. You'll have said this or heard it, but people are willing to live for their what, but very few are willing to die for their why. And so I would die for my why. I would die for the why of coaching soccer. And it's not because not because I love X's and O's and strategies and systems of play. And it's not because of that. It's simply because I want to share my faith through the game of soccer. And it gave me the World Cup's coming to America, coming to Houston. And so it's such a great platform that we get to use. So my why is quite simply, it's a platform to share Christ. It's always going to be this order: Christ first, and then soccer is way, way behind. So sharing Jesus is always going to be number one priority. And it just so happens that soccer affords us our opportunity to reach kids, reach families, reach communities, reach countries, as the Lord has opened doors for us in the last few years for Christ. And so I think that, Paul, is the why behind what we do. It's just a real deep-seated passion to, I will die for this. If somebody says, you're going to suffer or die for your faith. It's like, okay, whatever I need to do, that's it. That would be my why. I would die for it.
Yeah, I love that. We had an athletic director one time who said pretty simply and well, it's about the Janes and the Joes, not the X's and the O's, right? You kind of hit that a little bit, and it's about the people,
right?
And of course, through faith, through ministry, trying to instill that into folks is huge. So, absolutely love that. And how does that, like? Let's dive into that a little bit. I think some people would hear that and go, well, you know what, you're in sports ministry, like how does that reflect into like you die for that? Because I think some people don't relate sport ministry into like it seems like it's extracurricular activity, right? It's not like you're on the front line somewhere and you're being, hey, profess your faith, or we're gonna stab you with a sword back in the old days, or it happens currently. I guess it's not old days, but how would you relate that into sport? Take people into that world a little bit for us.
I think it's just if I go, for example, I cannot go to a soccer session, roll out a soccer ball, and say go have fun, or go, these are the drills, these are the exercises, and leave them without some kind of either gospel conversation or gospel presentation. I would just feel like, personally, I would just feel disobedient to what God has called me to do, and I know. I don't suffer for my faith. Like, I know you've had somebody, I think it was from, I forget who it was, Phil from MAI or Charlotte Eagles, who I remember they went on the mission.
Oh yeah, David Irby. Yeah, Irby.
And they had to write the letters before they left to their family. I'm not in that situation. I don't know if the Lord would put me in that situation, but I would like to think that if He did, I'd be willing to write that same letter to my family, because I believe that God calls us to certain places, and it's not necessarily going to be comfortable. It's not comfortable in the Houston heat doing the summer camp season, but we do it because it's what we're passionate about doing, and it's not always a burning passion. Sometimes, yes, you got to drag yourselves there, but you do it because it is your why. And if you don't have that why, then when it's 110 outside and you're on a turf field, and it's brutal, and you've got 5-year-old kids for 3 hours, and then you start out. It's like you start to question your why, but not really. It's kind of tongue in cheek, but that's why we do what we do. And we, somebody asked the other day, how do you do it? How do you do this thing called soccer ministry? What does it look like? And I was telling Phil the other day about situation with Manchester United. And when they won the first game against Arsenal, when we battered Arsenal and won the first game, I somehow, I'm just like, how do I get that in to my players? How do I get an illustration in this, maybe relevant to them, that I can share and get the gospel in? And so I like to call it prepare and declare. And so before the training session starts, we get the kids around the center circle, and we kind of prepare their hearts for the session through prayer, and then also with a little teaser message. And so the question to them was, what does it mean to be rescued? Have you ever been rescued from something? And this lasts like 3 or 4 minutes. Ever been rescued from something? What's the definition of rescue? And so it went on. I said, as you go into your soccer session, I want you to look for those times where maybe the goalkeeper bails you out and rescues you. Maybe a defender makes the last-ditch tackle to save you. Maybe you scored the winning goal in a drill to rescue your team. Just think about that whole concept of rescue as you go into your session. Let's pray, and then we send them out. And so they go out, they play for practice for 80 minutes, and then they come back. And so we get around the circle again. And by the way, we call the circle the cow, COW, and it's the circle of wisdom. They say, come and gather around the cow, which they all know, which is, just a little reminder to them. And I say, it's not my wisdom, it's God's wisdom that we're going to share. But let's gather around. It's like, who remembers what we talked about? Who remembers the word of the day? And 1 or 2. Now, remember, this is 7:30 when we start in the morning. So by 8:45, there's more hands going up. And to be rescued means to, somebody saves you from this, saves you from that. I said, well, you guys all know that, I'm a Manchester United fan, and Phil Carrick Michael Carrick, Phil Carrick's a cricketer. Michael Carrick actually rescued, in effect, he rescued Manchester United from 10 years of mediocrity when it beat Arsenal at the weekend. They were on fire. It was like the good old days where they scored the last minute goal, and he rescued the team. And I said, Michael Carrick may rescue the team this Saturday, might rescue the team next week, the week. He might rescue them for the season. He might be the next Alex Ferguson. I said, Michael Carrick only has certain abilities, certain rescuing abilities. And one thing he can't rescue is your soul. There's only one that can rescue your soul, and his name is Jesus Christ. And so then we can go into the whole declaration of the gospel. Why do we need Jesus? So we kind of prepare their hearts ahead of time with a little teaser, and then we'll declare the gospel truth at the end and through a soccer illustration. So that's one way that we do it. Another way would be just by, curriculum based. We write curriculum and we share biblical principles and themes with the kids. But I really like it's like whenever I read my Bible, it's like, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I read my Bible, I'm always looking for soccer illustrations. It's like, how can this verse be used in scripture? It be used in soccer. You read about serving. How can we be a servant leader? How can we have, the humility of Christ, whether we win or we lose? And so I'm sure you guys do the exact same thing. It's like, it's the Bible, but it's also a playbook it's the manual of lessons to teach the game. And so that's how several of the ways that we present the gospel. But the Bible's never been the same to me once I became a coach. It's like, that's where I get my illustrations from, the game plus the Bible. So
I love it. We had Brad Kenny on, who wrote the soccer Psalms, and those are pretty cool. Those are pretty cool. He takes the Psalm and then puts it into soccer language, which is pretty awesome. I will say that, some would say that that Houston in the summertime is closest thing we'll see to hell on earth.
I would agree with that.
So that might be persecution. I mean, that may be what Jesus was talking about in Matthew 5 with, blessed are you when you're persecuted for my sake. Right. Yeah. So I don't know.
So you're not joking. When I was, I think I lost you guys. No, there you go. When I was 15, I grew up in Atlanta, which isn't the coldest place in the world either, but we had regionals in Houston, Texas. And at 15, I swore I would never go back to Texas in my life. I was like, this is miserable. And of course, here we are.
Of course.
So anyway.
When I first came over, Paul, from England, I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I was out there, no shirt, shorts. It was just, now it's like, as I'm getting older, as I become a grandpa, it's like, man, where's the air conditioning? Can we do an indoor camp this summer? It's like, but I used to love it because it was so different to England, Yeah. But now I've been in it for so long, it's like, man, no, put me indoors somewhere. So it is brutally hot, but it's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've talked a little bit about, sports coach. You've given a little bit about how you do what you do.
Yeah.
But you've had some different iterations over the 30-year history. And so can you just kind of go just a little bit, kind of pull back a little bit from the details you just gave us there, and just kind of give us, why Sports Quest? Like you said, it's not Soccer Quest, and that's even though that's your focus. But also just how has the ministry changed over the 30-year history? And obviously it's going to be a flyover. This would be a much longer conversation, but just, so people kind of get an idea, and people might be interested in starting ministry and doing stuff, different things, but also understanding that, you got to do it open-handed. So that's obviously what you've done. So what does that look like?
Well, the name Sports Quest was relatively easy because I believe that's what he called us to do, to be on the quest, to be on a mission for the gospel to share. Sports was generic enough to be used if and when somebody takes over from me, they want to bring in cricket, pickleball, whatever, then it just made sense not to be so sports specific as Soccer Quest. Although we still get called Soccer Quest in many ways, but So Sports Quest is the name. And initially it was primarily, we had two branches of the ministry, if you like. It was club training. We had 20 plus teams. And then it was summer camps. And so you went from one to the other. And then Christmas was, we'd go back to England typically when the kids were young because it was free, and we'd go back to England. So that's when the club scene shut down. But then over the years, I just saw club soccer get really, really super competitive, and I'm competitive, but it got so, in my opinion at least, it got so money driven, it got so ego driven by coaches who wanted, they wanted to be the stars of the show, and it just lost its. I lost my joy of being on the sidelines. I lost my joy of going to training every single night. I never had a weekend. It just became absolutely all consuming. And so family time was zero. And one of my biggest regrets, I guess, would be, when I was on the field teaching somebody else's kids, my kids were at home with the mom, not having the dad at home. And so Debbie, bless her heart, she basically raised the kids. Because I was leaving for the field at 4 and getting back at 10:30 every night, and then games on a Saturday, games on a Sunday, tournaments, Easter, Christmas. Could never celebrate my birthday because it was on Labor Day, and there's a Labor Day tournament. And it got to a point where it's like, man, enough is enough. I just can't keep doing that. And then when I made that decision, it was around about, I was looking back, I think it was about 2016. I was looking back, and from that point forward, and I made that decision, other doors really started to open up for us. The homeschool environment really opened up. That's really flourishing now. We have a strong homeschool presence here in Houston. But we continued doing camps. So that was a paid project. That we continued doing homeschool. But then the Lord opened up doors for us to do ministry with children and adults that didn't pay for training, couldn't pay for training. So special needs children, special needs adults, Special Olympics, underserved children, at-risk children, juvenile detention centers, overseas missions. All of those are free. And that's where the Lord is kind of, I just sense he's moving us more and more towards those things. So for example, 80% of what we do right now it requires fundraising. So that's why we have a big, year-end fundraiser. But that's where the Lord has been steering us, and it's really freeing. Homeschool soccer is competitive, but it's not. I never feel like it's cutthroat. It's not. I never feel like there's a lot of egos involved. And I've coached the varsity boys, varsity girls, and I've landed for the last few years with the middle school boys, and it is. I don't know. It's such a sweet, tender age where your dad jokes still land. They still think you're kind of funny. If you try those jokes with the high schoolers, you're just not cool. But with the middle schoolers, you can get away with it a little bit. And so I've just felt the Lord leading us in that direction to say, okay, we're gonna move you to different places. We're gonna move you a little bit out of your comfort zone, and he's gonna ask us to go places that we never would have dreamt. First mission trip was 2019 to Haiti. And since then, we've been all over the world through soccer, and it's not because of how good we are, and it's certainly not because we've sought those things out. The Lord has just brought them to us, and it's almost asking the question, will you be faithful in going where I'm sending you? And that's what we try to do.
Yeah, that's right. I like that. I've been talking to my coaches a lot lately about, trying to find that sweet spot for them, right? I think we all have, because of our personalities and whatever, we have that sweet spot. I remember when I was first coaching, I loved the U12 boys, kind of for the same reason you're talking about, it's kind of a sweet spot. Now give me 5, 6, 7-year-old kids. I can do it if I have to, but not really my strength, I'll go crazy. But, with that in mind, like how has, like, in the 30 years of doing Sports Quest, and even just through your development as a coach, how have you seen that change over the years? Because I think it's important for coaches to know that it can change, right? I went from loving U12 boys to coaching, college girls for almost 20 years. That's very different. But God calls you to certain places and whatnot. But how have you seen, your coaching style change? How has leadership changed even within coaching? You talked a little bit about how it was super competitive and how you changed through that, but take us a little bit deeper into how that's changed over the years for you with your coaching styles and leadership methods.
It's a great question, and I'm a little bit like you. I when I first came over, I loved the 5 and 6 year olds, and I think one of the reasons was because there was no expectation from them, and I'd come over as an Englishman. I got my English coaching badge, and so you come over, thinking you know a little bit about soccer. We invented the game. What can you do? So I really loved the 5 and 6s because there was no agenda for them, and I could get away with poor coaching, if you like. But um, as I got a little bit older and I started to work with kids 11, 12, 13, 14, up to 18s, it's like I can't get away with an English accent and an English badge all my life. I don't want to be that guy that just the Englishman, he knows everything, and so back in the day when you could go right to almost to the top level in the USSF. I went with Rob, actually, Phil, to my B license. Back in the day, you could do that. You could skip several because of experience and so on. So I did my B license. It's like, I'm going to be teaching these guys. They don't know, they don't know football. They call it the wrong name anyway. It's not soccer, it's football. So what are they going to teach me? So, but I went on that B license course, and the coaches I had were Glenn Meinig, and who passed away, you all know, and then Jay Hoffman. And I learned so much from those guys. I was so humbled I was embarrassed by how much I didn't know about the game. And so when I came back, I really had to almost reinvent myself as a coach, from a coach of 5 and 6, 7 year olds, just like, now I want to take the game more seriously. And I had some ammunition now, learning from these higher level coaches. And it was a real eye opener to me how much I didn't know. But as a young coach, I tried every style. I tried the command style. I remember I just practice every week. I try something different. It's like, this week I'm going to be really ruthless. So if somebody's late, they're doing laps. If somebody's misbehaving, they're doing push-ups. I tried that, just shouting, and I did the whole. And then I do the question and answer style and all this. I tried everything, but I eventually realized that I had to land on my own personality. That's all I could do. I eventually got to the point, it's like, Jim, you're not being authentic and true to yourself. And so I had to ask myself the question, I think it was really a couple of questions, is, would I want to play? Would I want to be coached by me as a coach? Would I want to be coached? If I'm a player, regardless of the age, would I want to be coached? Number two, would I enjoy the coaching session? Was it fun? I mean, if the kids are not having fun and they're playing with a smile on their face, then they shouldn't be playing, in my opinion. And then thirdly, would they learn from me? And so I had to adapt my thinking. Would I enjoy playing from me? Would I learn from me? And would I want to be a part of my session? And so I had to adopt my leadership style to my personality. My personality is not to get under the skin. I'm an encourager, and so I want to encourage the kids. I want to be a cheerleader and a coach for the underdog. So my coaching style, I think, it's morphed over the years, and it's not everybody's cup of tea, because some people are more serious about coaching than I am. But I'm serious about the profession. I'm serious about preparation. I'm serious about professionalism. But I don't take the game, and I don't take myself too seriously. And so my leadership style, I guess, hopefully reflects that. And again, it's not everybody's cup of tea, because this is the way it's going to be. But for me, I like to build relationships with the players, as opposed to just always belting out instructions. It's not my way of doing it. I'd rather build a relationship, encourage them, and lead from that kind of environment, I guess. I don't know if it's so important question. It's a bit of a long.
No, absolutely answer the question. I think it's great to see kind of that development coaches. I think there are a lot of coaches, I think, that listen to this and whether they're really experienced or just getting into the game. I think it's important to hear how, as coaches, we do kind of morph and change as we should. The game ebbs and flows. The kids are different now than they were 15 years ago, just with the world that they're living in. But I think it's important that we can highlight, you need to find your own personality, right?
Mhm.
It's okay to look at what a lot of other coaches are doing and try to figure out, morph that into, who you are as a coach. How do you best? And I think your point of, would I play for me? I think
Right.
I think we should look at ourselves all the time and say, would I play for me? Did I do anything today at training that, maybe I should go apologize for,
Yeah. I found myself doing that a lot.
did I get too excited in that moment? I mean, I substituted for a coach a year ago, ran a training session and got all over a kid. And, what I said was right. How I said it was wrong. And I had to go to that kid after training. I was like, listen, like, you're a great player. I have high expectations for you as a player. I approached you totally wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that's okay. But, learning who we are. I listened to something today. The guy was talking about how in the social media world, you start watching certain things, algorithms will tell you what you should be watching. So you kind of morph yourself into what you're watching, right? So I think we need to be careful too, that we're not just pulling everything off of what reel did we watch, what social media thing did we just see. Get out of that, outside of your comfort zone a little bit, to challenge yourself as a coach as well. So you can grow, right?
Right.
So you can develop. But those are great, some great wisdom there.
Well, I love the fact that we're in the same boat of apologizing to our players. I find myself doing that more and more these days for some reason. I think I'm just getting grumpier, as a grandpa. That's just, I'm becoming a grumpy old coach. But, just the other day, I like to give kids, I don't remember names very well, but I do remember nicknames. And so I'll give a kid a nickname, and just every now and then again, I have to, they don't like the nickname. They don't like being called what you call them, and it's just a bit of fun. So what I've started to do is ask for permission to, do you mind if I call you this nickname? Is that okay? And if I've offended you, then I apologize. And I think the humility with that goes a long way, and then seeing that you don't have everything together, you're imperfect, just like they are. And then we had a young man this past week say he's gonna go and play another sport in the next season. And I said, "Oh my goodness, that's such a waste, because you've really improved as a player. You've really come on. I can see the ability you've got. You increase your speed of thought, your technical abilities all improved." I said, "Why would you want to go and play another sport?" And I could see him kind of getting a little bit deflated by all that. And so at the start of the next session, I pulled him aside and I said, I want to apologize because I didn't want to. I feel like I undermined you as an athlete. I said I love the other sport that you're going to play, but asking you to prioritize soccer over that other sport was wrong of me. I shouldn't put that pressure on you. That was inappropriate. But just go enjoy your other sport, and when you're ready, if you're ready, come back to soccer. We'll embrace you back. And so, yeah, apologies. Yeah, it's something I think we got to be prepared to do and ready to do and humble enough to do, and hopefully not having to make too many, but it's part of being a coach. I think we don't always get it right. Ruben Amorim didn't always get it right a lot of the times at Manchester United, and he apologized, and it probably cost him his job because he was too honest, so.
Yeah, it's a good thing he left though.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. I had to apologize to my team last night because at the end of the game, the referee made what I thought were poor decisions. And I may or may not have yelled at the refs a couple times. But no, I just said, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. One of our players like, we wanted to, coach, we wanted to yell, so glad you did. I'm like, I know, it was still wrong. But yeah, I mean, we're modeling obviously to them as well, and so I think just even asking permission for a nickname, like that's very important, because most kids would not say I don't like the nickname. They just wouldn't like it, and then they would every time it'd be like a little dagger, hitting them, and so that's I love those little little nuggets, as we call them, just that coaches can take and go, you know what, I've never even thought about that. Like,
Yeah.
most of the time you're just like, oh, whatever the
Mhm.
nickname, and some kids, like I had a nickname in high school. I was like, whatever, it's like some guy said, if you remember, like the little Snuggles bear. He's like, oh, you're
Mhm.
Snuggles. And so that stuck, but that would have offended a lot of people. But I'm
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
don't care. I loved it. It was my fun. They still call me,
yeah,
like high school teammates still call me that. But I
yeah.
could see that being a real negative connotation for
For
someone who's
sure.
really insecure or
Yeah,
doesn't, has
yeah,
some issues, or maybe the nickname triggers some other thing that,
absolutely. Yeah.
whatever that was there. So that's really important.
Yeah.
All right. So we got, a few more things we want to touch on. One is, just we always like to go back to your athletic career. This could be cricket, it could be football, it could be something
Yeah.
else. But what was a defining moment in your athletic career, and why was it in fact impactful? What did you learn from it? And how are you using that today?
And like I said, my number one passion is cricket, and that's why it's kind of comical how Laura's got me into soccer ministry because it would have been my choice, but I do love soccer. But my illustration, I guess, would be from cricket. And growing up, that was my passion. That was really my strength. That was my number one goal was to get to the top, and I was doing pretty good. I was playing at the city level. I was playing at the county level. I was playing at the North of England level. And I felt like I was on course to become a professional cricket player at one point. And what people saw in me was I was I guess a fast bowler, where I guess over here you'd be a pitcher, but I was a fast bowler, and so that was my strength. And that's what was taking me up to the higher levels, I guess. But it was right about the time I think it was about 17 or 18. I was playing for the Yorkshire schoolboys team, and I had a friend of mine playing at the same time. One of my best friends at the same time. And it was right about when the cricketers were starting to wear helmets. They're starting to get soft and wear helmets. It's like okay, gone are the days of just taking on the head and playing on. Now they're wearing crash helmets because of the fast bowling. And so I remember my friend was bowling, and these two guys were wearing helmets because he was pinging the ball around their ears, and they were dodging and they were getting. And so it was this guy, my friend, was really bowling at a high level of fast bowling. Um, and then when he finished his spell of bowling, as you call it, it was my turn to come on and bowl, and I was the fast bowler supposedly. And I came on, and I remember bowling 2 or 3 deliveries. And the batsman called to the side, and he said, "Can you take his helmet off? I don't need his helmet anymore. Can you take it off?" And Phil, I remember, I no word of a lie. I went after that. You have 6 deliveries in an over. Anyway, you don't need to know. I finished my over of 6 deliveries, and I went to the boundary, and I just wept. I just cried because at that stage I knew it's like I'm not going to make it as a cricketer. I'm not going to make it. These guys don't need a helmet now anymore when they face me with my fast bowling. They just don't need it. I've lost that edge that I had growing up, and I don't need it. And I was just heartbroken. I was crushed to the point of tears as an older teenager, and it really impacted me. And I think it stuck with me more than any other lesson. I think because I'm able now, I believe, because of that, I'm able to empathize with people who get injured, people who don't reach the potential, people who fail, people who fall short. I feel like, and this is before I was a Christian, by the way, but I still feel like the Lord was working on my heart then and building into me that compassion that I think sets coaches apart from good coaches apart from the average coach. Somebody that's willing to show empathy towards another person, to show have a compassionate heart and spirit towards them. And I think that moment was one of the key moments for me. It's like, man, I'm not gonna go where I want to go, and so I see kids now who are not going to go potentially where they want to go, and it grieves me, but I want to be there for them to encourage them. It's like, do you realize how many professionals are going to come out of this? camp or out of this club, out of this one school program, it's 0.0 whatever the number is. It's just minuscule, and so it allowed me to see sport from a different perspective. It really my dreams were shattered, but I can now see kids who have that similar type dream in sport, and it's like, you know, enjoy every practice, enjoy every game, play with all you got, be competitive. I don't think as Christ followers are meant to not compete. I think we should be competitive and be the best we can be. But yeah, that was defining for me because it proved that I weren't going to make the grade like I'd hoped. And it just, I think it tenderized my heart even at that time. So,
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. And to your point, like a whole lot more people will be crushed of their
yeah,
dream to play professionally than will actually play.
yeah.
And every kid, when they're playing as a kid, is like, I'm going to be a professional. I
Mm-hmm.
got my 14-year-old who's still got that dream, and
Mm-hmm.
it hasn't been crushed yet, but I mean,
Right.
odds are it will be.
Yeah.
And he might defeat the odds, but that's what
Mm-hmm.
it is. It's overcoming the odds, and so we get that opportunity to be able to be as part of that, and I see it as an opportunity because it allows to say, hey, who are you, and
Yeah.
what is your identity, and what is this all about, and to have those conversations are really important conversations, and what a privilege that we as coaches get to have some of those conversations, with people that could shape their life, so
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, you know, every player, their career ends
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
some point, right? Whether they go away to be a professional, which is obviously the less than 1%ers, right? But at some point, everybody's career is over. But as coaches, how are we instilling in them the things that are the most important? Like, if you ask a parent, like, why do you really have your kids in sport? They'll give you a great answer, and sometimes they won't, live up to that expectation on a sideline, or if a kid isn't playing enough or whatever. But it's about the life lessons that we can teach in sport. Honestly, is what people really want. And I think as coaches, I think it's important for us to continue to remind parents and kids what sport is really teaching,
Yeah.
especially through faith. How can we teach, faith through sport? It is an amazing ministry opportunity that I think more churches and people should really dive into, because it's such a big part of our culture now. But I think that's important. And through your time with leaders who maybe helped instill that into you, let's talk about some of the leaders that impacted,
Yeah.
your lives. Who are some people that stood out to you, whether they're coaches or leaders or impact people in your life, and why did they stand out so much to you to impact how you now lead the way that you do?
Yeah. I think there's two come to mind from totally different environments. One was a lady called Uncut. She was the athletic director at a girls' school that part of a girls' school that I used to coach their varsity team. And I was there for 4 years. And she taught me so much about high school athletics. High school, I didn't know the difference between varsity and I didn't know what varsity was, what junior. I didn't know what a freshman and stuff. I got them all out of order. I got freshmen, seniors. So I didn't even know what the sequence was. But she really took me under her wing for 4 years, and she taught me how to deal with parents. She was my number one cheerleader. She had my back all the time. She said, "I'll always, unless there's something drastic, I'll always stick up for you as the head soccer coach of the school." And so she really taught me a lot about how to deal with parents, how to set a culture within the school. Because before I'd gone in, the culture was very lax. It was one where if you're a club player, you could leave practice halfway through, and club players got all the playing time. She said, "No, we don't want that culture. We want a culture where if they're going to play for the school, they have to be sold out for the school, no matter how good they are as a club player." And so she was able to encourage me to set a culture within the school, which has lasted even to this day. So I owe a lot to her. And we became good friends after I left the school. She's just a sweet, soft heart for kids and for the soccer program. Another one would be from just pure ministry side would be a good friend of mine is a retired pastor, and he actually has a podcast. He started it up, and that's why one of the reasons why I so admire him, because after he retired as a pastor, he would go and spend extended times in Haiti in the seminary, teaching the students how to become, how to get through seminary and how to become ministers, basically. But when Haiti became such a dangerous place, and he talked about how dangerous it was, how the bullets would fly in the classroom, and how it just got so dangerous that he could no longer go and put himself at risk or his students at risk. He's a retired pastor. What does he do? And so I was just really impressed that he was able to go from reaching seminary students in Haiti to now having probably over 200 countries listen to a podcast. And so he was able to pivot so well. And he has a podcast called Wisdom from Above. And it's a weekly podcast that he probably spends about 20 hours a week in preparation, like he's prepping a sermon. He spends such time and effort, but then he's still got time for me. I'll text him or email him a question. Just last night, I asked him a question, and he emailed me back straight away. So as a leader, as a minister leader, I've just seen his ability to say, okay, God's closed this door, but my goodness is opening up this other door to reach thousands upon thousands of people that he would never have reached had he just stayed in Haiti. So he was able to take something negative and still reap the benefits of seeing people come to Christ through his podcast ministry. So Harlan is a true friend, is a true leader, and again, a real encourager. But I just love the fact that he's been able to take something that's negative, the Haiti situation, and turn it around where he's impacted countless lives for Jesus today. So they'd be the main two. And of course, Rob was always a good friend of mine and leader and mentor. And I was his best man and he was my best man. And so we have that close friendship, even though we hadn't seen each other in the flesh for, goodness, 20 plus years. We Zoom a lot and talk. So those three in particular, but in particular the athletic director, Pastor Harlan, and Rob, the way that he just modeled a Christian lifestyle authentically once he came to Christ. Because I knew him as a college, we knew each other at college, and we didn't model Christ-like attitude at that time. So watching him grow over the years has been a real blessing.
That's awesome. It's so great to have those people in our lives, and
Yeah,
just love that. And yeah, and I love just seeing how people take what they're learning and being able to share it with others. Obviously, it's why we do this. It's why I did the other podcast, just to be able to say, hey, like, I'm learning, we're all learning alongside each other. How can we encourage each other? So I love that. We'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What the last three questions. So the first one we got, what would you like to go back and teach your 25-year-old self about life and leadership? If you could go back in time and have that conversation. You saw a recent commercial with Drake May and talking to his like 5-year-old self or something. So what would you like to be able to go back and talk to? He's probably 20. He's not even 25 yet. But what would you like to do? That's a few years ago for you.
It is
So
a
I don't know
good
if you
few
could
years now, actually.
remember that far back, but what
It's-
would you want to go back and teach your 25-year-old self about life and leadership?
I wish somebody would have taught me that you guys know the four key, some of the key leadership principles of evaluate, delegate, automate, or eliminate. I wish that somebody would have taught me those lessons as a 25-year-old. It's evaluate what I'm doing. Evaluate my priorities. My priorities were out of sync with what I should have been doing as a Christian husband and as a Christian father, because I was spending all the time on the field. And it's like, at the time, there was nobody else that could do it. It was me and it was others. But I wish I could go back and not spend all that time on the field and see my kids grow up as a normal parent or family would, I guess. So I wish I could have evaluated better. I wish I could have learned to delegate, a lot more. It seems that even now, I find myself, if it's worth doing, I'm the only one that can do it. I'm the only one that knows how to do it. And my way is so having the ability to delegate, I wish I could have learned that earlier, and because it becomes very stressful when you take on when you take on all these job and assignments on your own. So delegate and trusting people to get the job done. What is it, 80% as well as you would like it to have, or 70%, whatever but even if it's not done as good as you would do it, just giving somebody the trust to delegate an activity, that would have been important to me. And then the whole automation thing, I'm not overly good at the tech stuff, but automating stuff, I wish I'd known about then how you can make things simpler, online registration, all that, good stuff. And then just learning what to say no to. A friend of mine said, several years ago, his motto in life is he always tries to find a way to say yes. And it's great advice until you become a yes person. And then when that's ringing in your ears, always find a way to say yes. Then turning down things becomes really difficult, because if that's your philosophy of life, then if people are asking you to do stuff, you're all over the place, and that's what I found myself doing a lot, and over the years. But I'm learning I'm learning the art of saying no, and saying no graciously, because not every opportunity that comes your way is the best one. It might be a good one, but it might not be the best one for that season of life. And so I wish as a 25-year-old, I would have learned to say no more often, because it had caused me a lot of probably stress and gray hair and loss of hair and all the rest of it, But yeah, I think 25-year-old me would have been, Christ has to be number one focus above soccer. Has to be. Soccer comes way down. Family obviously comes second. But I think I was so consumed with soccer and wanting to make a ministry out of it that I said yes to everything, and just ended up, at times with burnout and a little bit of disillusionment at times. Frustration when you say yes to something and it's not appreciated, or you don't feel appreciated, and that so selfishness involved. So yes, it's kind of a convoluted answer to a simple question, but there's a lot of things I would go back on. Man, I wish I could do that differently. I wish I could. Why didn't we go another sport back in the day before all these multi-sport organizations existed? Why didn't I delegate more? Why didn't I get off the field more? Why did I say yes to every single tournament that was offered? Why didn't I say no? So yeah, but I think
that's good.
feelings.
That's good. We, I talked to. That's one of the lessons I myself have to continually compete with too. Is, when I say yes to something, I say no to everything else.
Yeah, yeah.
And we can't, I mean, we probably can clone ourselves at this point. I don't know. They probably have it out there, but we can't do it really ethically. No, but we can't do everything. And so I think of that, the way they say, good is the enemy of great, right? Like, so often we take something and we really miss out on what God has for us.
Yeah.
Because we say yes to something that takes us away from the great that he has.
Yeah.
And it's that discernment. It's continually discerning, right? And
Yeah.
and I think that there's somewhere, the truth is somewhere in the middle, because I think there's other people who just say no to everything.
Absolutely.
So it's like, can you connect next week? No.
Yeah.
No, not even. And you don't leave any room open for the divine appointments that God might have for you.
Yeah.
And I had another friend who, talked about making room, right? So making room in your calendar.
Yeah.
Or if you have a coffee appointment, have a half-hour buffer at the end, just in case there's somebody else in that coffee shop you're supposed to connect with.
Yeah.
To have that room. And it may be that you don't, and you go home and you have a half hour more with your family, but to not book your calendar, because I would book it like meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And if that person had something, either I'd be late for the next one, which isn't good, or I wouldn't be able to connect with them at the level that. And so there's so many good lessons in there. I love that. And that's one that there's so many things I say to my kids, like, I wish I would have known this when I was your age. I wish I would have had this idea. And sounds like you do too. So, Paul, what are you thinking, man? Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I was going to say it's always a tension point, because another phrase I've heard is, you never know what's on the other side of obedience, right? And so you never know if you say yes because of obedience. You never know where that's gonna land. And an example would be our special needs ministry. That I didn't seek that out. That was an opportunity for us to donate some soccer equipment to a special needs organization, and then make the offer of, hey, you know what? If everyone wants to come and do a free session, just let us know. And so we went and we were obedient. And then 8 years later, we're still doing those same sessions week after week, and that ministry started to grow. And had I said no to that, then we wouldn't have. So it's just, you don't want to become a people pleaser. You want to become a God pleaser, obviously. So that having an attitude to say yes is great, but then and having the obedient heart is great, but then having that discernment to say, well, that's great, but it's not the best, And I do struggle with that. I've got to be honest.
Or it's great, but it's not for you.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it's also okay once you've committed to something, once you realize it's not the right thing, to find the right way out of it also,
yeah,
right? Or maybe it was the right thing in the moment, but maybe some things change, or you've
yeah,
done all you can do, and then you need to back out, pass, like
yeah,
you said, delegate, pass it on. There's so many different. This could be an entire podcast on that. It's a huge and a fantastic topic to discuss. But um, uh, onto our kind of our last final, our last final questions here. I like this question because it makes people think, and you're prepared for it. You know it's coming. So I'm interested to hear how have you used the lessons you learned directly from soccer or cricket or maybe any other sport
yeah.
in your marriage and parenting.
But yeah, I did know it was coming. Now I feel like I'm on the spot a little bit because in my marriage and parenting, I think just some of the things I talked about earlier with players, just having that a compassion in my marriage, a realization that I don't always get it right, and so I have to apologize. The ability to show grace to family members that don't get it right, sees, soccer's so like Manchester. I always go back to Manchester as my illustration, but they've had 10 years in the wilderness, 10 years of just disastrous appointments, and that's been a season of Manchester United. Now it looks like they're on the uptick again. And it's that's like marriage. That's like life. There's seasons where, man, it's just tough. Your kid gets into trouble. Your marriage is, not where you want it to be because you're spending so much time at the field, etc. And so, I think just learning to be patient through those hard seasons and to not quit, even though it's tough, even though your kids are driving you crazy, even though you're not seeing eye to eye necessarily with your spouse. Just that mindset of, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to throw the towel in on my kids or my family, just like I wouldn't do in a game of cricket or a game of football. I'm not going to do that. So just that desire to press on in spite of what's going on around us. So I think that's been a key lesson through sport in particular. Has taught me just to keep going, to press on, to realize hard times might just be around the corner, but good times might, follow that. So, yeah, I knew the question was coming, and I kind of feel like I mumbled there a little bit, but yeah, I just feel like it's really important not to give up when the going gets tough in your family life, because it will. Marriage is two imperfect people joining together and trying to do life together without, with our quirks and warts and all. And so, learning to forgive, learning when to be quiet as a coach is really important. Learning when to speak is really important. Same with our family, family life, knowing when to speak. I could crush my wife with just a few words. I know I could. And then equally, I can crush it with giving the silent treatment. And neither one of those is a good thing. So just learning through sport and through communication with players and managers, coaches rather than parents, has been a big help in my parenting and my marriage, especially.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's so good. And I've I think it's Matt Chandler. He's out there in Texas as well. Who said, our wives and we with our wives, but our wives with us have the ability to give us the most life and to crush us the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like it's truth. It's
Yeah.
true. I mean, on earth, like they are the ones who can help us the most and hurt us the most.
Yeah, for sure.
And I hope and pray that we, as husbands and wives as well, can give life more than we're hurting.
Yeah. And I have a great wife, by the way. She's we would not, Sportsquest would not be here had it not been for her and her input and her wisdom over the years. And so I don't want to paint a picture of, we're always, no, we have a great, it's not a perfect marriage,
Yeah.
but a really good marriage. So I just want to make sure in case she listens to this.
I like the caveat. I like the caveat.
Yeah. In case she dares to listen to it, then Debbie, you're awesome. So.
Yeah.
Well, you've listened. Phil and I have to cover ourselves a lot as well. Yeah, sure. That just in case, right?
Yeah.
Even though our wives don't listen, I think Becca listened to the one she was on. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
Just to make sure she didn't, she thought she sounded good or something. I don't know, but yeah, it's pretty safe for us. Debbie probably will listen to this. So that's just for the record. That's not what I heard, and I don't think anyone else did either.
No.
But good caveat. That's why you're having a good marriage, is because you did catch that and made sure.
Like a good coach, I just cover my bases,
Hey, belt and suspenders. That's what I like. You gotta do it. You gotta do it. I said that to my kids the other day. Like, what are you talking about? Well, belt and suspenders. What does that even mean? I'm like, don't worry about it. It's okay. All right, Jim. Well, we've said this before.
Yeah.
All good things here on earth must come to an end. And I say that, I caveat it, because all good things don't need to come to an end when we're talking about the eternal perspective. But that's this does need to come to an end. And so what have you watched, read, or listened to that has most impacted your thinking on how soccer explains life and leadership?
I've been fortunate the last few weeks to go to Evangelism Summit, which was absolutely tremendous. And then last week we had a leadership conference at church. And I know I do read books, but I'm not a big reader. I have a lot of books like a half read, but I do like to write quotes, that are meaningful at the time. And so I wrote a few because I thought some might just resonate instead of giving this big lesson. But a big one for me is simply that growth and comfort can never coexist. Growth and comfort never coexist. So if I'm going to grow, I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and into my courage zone. I love the one that says, culture is what we teach, celebrate, and tolerate is what you create and what you allow. From the Evangelism Summit, witness as you go, not go to witness. I thought that was a really great truth bomb. Talk to God about people, talk to people about God. I love this one. He says, pray, you've probably heard it, pray daily for Bob. It's like, what? Pray daily for Bob. Give me a burden for the lost. Give my heart a burden for the lost souls. Oh, open doors for me. Those divine appointments, Phil, that you mentioned, open doors that my heart will be sensitive to go through that door and connect with another person. And please give me boldness in speaking. Don't let me be shy or ashamed of my faith. So daily pray to Bob. And I guess the last one would be, if God is small enough to be understood, he's not big enough to be worshipped. You've probably heard that one before. If he's so small that we can understand him, then we need to find something else to worship. And our small brains will never understand God. That's why he's going and we're not. And but yeah, and I think I have a whole book just of quotes that I write down when I'm reading. I'm sure you do too, of different things. But yeah, they will be some of my key truths to challenge anybody that's listening to. Yeah, as a parent, I'm just going through my list. As a parent, we're called to be present, not perfect. Yeah. Which is, so I couldn't go on.
I'm sure you could.
I appreciate the chance to share one or two, because you never know, one might just resonate. Praying to Bob every day may just be something that changes somebody's heart today in terms of, I need to be bold about sharing my faith. I need to pray for open doors. God, give me courage and boldness to be on the lookout for somebody that needs rescuing, as it were. So, yeah. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Jim. Grateful we got you on finally. Paul, you got any last words for this?
No, it's been fantastic, and appreciate obviously your time and just what you're doing for the kingdom, especially through sports. That's the commonality here. And how you're encouraging others just through your daily walk. So thanks for pouring into us a little bit today.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a long time coming, Phil, but man, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be on, because I'll listen to your show. I've gleaned a lot of my quotes come from you all, by the way. Sometimes I'm listening and driving, and I know I shouldn't, but I do write myself a little note and put it in my phone, and then get home and write it down. So I listen a lot and glean a lot of wisdom from you guys. So thank you.
I'm glad. That brings joy to me, and I know to Paul as well. So thank you. And folks out there, thank you for being a part of this. I do hope that you are learning a lot from this. You're using it in your life. If you want to learn more about Warrior Way, Paul's got the swag on again today. And so if you want to learn more about that, you can check it out in the show notes, warriorwaysoccer.com. Also have Paul's email and my email in there if you want to reach out to us. If you have any comments, put those in wherever you're listening to this show. You can put them in there. There's a spot for comments. Rate and review the show. If that definitely helps to get it out to others. But the thing that gets it out to others the most is just you sharing it with other people. If this is helping you, share it with others, because no doubt it will help them as well. And so, with all that, we hope that you are taking what you're learning from the show, and you are using it to be a better spouse, a better parent, a better coach, a better player, a better friend, better leader, better in everything that you do. And you continue to remind yourself that soccer and football, if you're outside the U.S., do explain life and leadership. Thanks a lot. Have a great couple weeks.